Chapter 13. Laney took a deep breath and opened the door to the women's house. She couldn't believe she had agreed to do this, but what was she supposed to say? I can't do the women's makeup because I'm attracted to Tyler? Yeah, that would have gone over well. They would probably have fired her on the spot. There had been nothing in the contract about falling for the cowboy, but Laney also noted that all the other women on the crew wore a wedding ring already. Maybe this was why. "Ah, there you are." Justin stood just inside the door, looking like his usual plastic self. Laney wondered if he did his own makeup or if that was his natural look. "I had Marianne gather the women together. I was just about to tell them about the date tonight. Come with me." Laney followed Justin into the living room where the women sat like an attentive audience. It was weird how they focused completely on Justin, but Laney assumed it was because this was the highlight of their day. With no television, phone, or outside communication, the women must get bored the rest of the day. Most of the live footage she'd watched with Marianne had been boring. The girls making a sandwich, the girls getting a drink, the girls sitting by the pool. Laney wondered why anyone paid for the live footage. "Tonight's date will be an adventure, and I will tell you who is going in just a minute. But you might wonder why Laney is here." A few of the girls nodded and looked her direction, but most kept their focus on Justin. "Laney is Tyler's makeup artist. We don't normally have her do the contestants too, but we noticed on the last take that some of the women's makeup was less than desirable on HD. So Laney is here to make sure you look your best. Is that clear?" The girls nodded and Justin continued. "Great. So going on tonight's date is Michelle C., Erica, Bristol, Peyton, Rachel, Jenna, and Jade. Heidi, congratulations. You have the first solo date tomorrow night." Heidi beamed, and the other girls shot her envious looks. "So if I called your name, please stay, and if I didn't, please vacate the room to give Laney room to work." The 6 women not called stood and left the room, and Laney glanced at the remaining 7. "Okay, let's start with you." She pointed to the pretty brunette who sat in the single chair. "I'm Erica," the girl said, scooting toward the edge of the chair. "So what's it like doing Tyler's makeup?" Laney held up her foundation to try to match Erica's complexion. "It's fine, just like doing anyone else's, I guess." "Is his face soft?" His jaw certainly wasn't, as the bump still visible on her forehead proclaimed, but she hadn't touched his face, at least not in the way Erica meant. "Does he talk about us?" "Yeah, has he said who he likes best?" The girls fired questions at Laney, one after the other. They were like rabid fans at a concert. Laney answered as vaguely as possible, not wanting to share the piece of Tyler she had access to that the women didn't. "He doesn't really talk about it much." When it became clear Laney couldn't or wouldn't answer any more of their questions, the women ignored her and chatted with each other. Their conversations subtly shifted into catty observations of the women not in the room. "I can't understand why he chose Heidi for his solo date," one girl said. "Yeah, what does he see in her?" Laney bit her lip to keep from interjecting into the conversation. She wasn't supposed to get involved, but listening to women disparage each other wasn't something she enjoyed. Relief filled her when she finished the last woman's makeup. She packed up her supplies and headed out to Tyler's room. Tyler smiled as Laney entered his room, but his smile changed to a look of concern at her pinched expression. "What's the matter?" "Oh, nothing. I was just asked to do the women's makeup as well, and I forgot how catty women can be when they get together." She pulled out the makeup and set it on the table. "Catty? What do you mean?" Laney rolled her eyes. "Just talking about the women who had gone on the previous date and poor Heidi who you chose for the solo." Laney's eyes widened and she clasped her hand over her mouth. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm not supposed to talk about the women in front of you. Please don't tell anyone what I said." "Hey." He put his hand on her arm. She looked so vulnerable at this moment and his heart ached with her. "Your secret is safe with me. Why aren't you supposed to talk about the women?" Her eyes dropped to his hand and her teeth bit down on her bottom lip. "I guess they think I might influence your decision, as if you cared about my opinion." She turned away and his hand fell from her arm, but he wasn't letting her off that easily. He grabbed her hand and turned her back to him. "I do care about your opinion." She looked down at their hands and then back up at him. "I'm not sure why I do, except that you're the person I feel closest to here." "I am?" Her voice was quiet, breathy. "Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of shut up in here except for when you come over, and when I go on the dates, and While the women seem nice, I don't get to talk to them the way you and I do. Besides, we're kindred spirits, both being from Texas. You know what they say, you can take the girl out of Texas, but you can't take Texas out of the girl. She pulled her hand out of his grasp. I should do your makeup. Her eyes shifted from his and to the table where she rearranged the items she had just placed. Right. What had he been thinking? Laney worked for the show, and he had probably just made her uncomfortable. Besides, even if she had been a contestant, she was a city girl, and he knew how well those worked out. He needed to be professional from now on with her. Still, he wanted to know more about her. So, what made you become a makeup artist? It seemed like an innocent question, but he saw Laney's shoulders tense as she poured the foundation into the airbrush machine. It's a rather stupid reason, she said with a forced laugh. I wanted to learn makeup so I wouldn't be invisible anymore. Invisible? You are anything but invisible. That's nice of you to say, but I've always been the girl who is everyone's friend. The way she emphasized the word friend let him know that men overlooked her. For some reason, they didn't see her as dateable, and he wondered why. True, he didn't know her well, but she was funny and sweet and pretty, and he needed to stop that train of thought right now. She was not the woman for him. He wanted to say something to put a smile back on her face, but appropriate words failed him, and before any sprang to mind, she was already spraying his face and packing up. All done, she said, her eyes avoiding his gaze. Have fun tonight. Thanks, I'll try. But he wondered if he'd be able to focus on anything other than Laney's words. Wait, you're not going? She shrugged. It's paintball. The point is to get dirty, so they said they don't need me there to pretty you all up. Right. Well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be here. She flashed a small smile before exiting his room, and Tyler sank down into the chair. He needed to focus on tonight's date and get Laney's face out of his mind, but that was easier said than done. A knock sounded and his door opened. You ready? Justin asked. Yep, let's do this. Tyler put on his best smile and followed Justin out of his room. He would get through tonight and reevaluate his feelings. Surely he was just feeling closer to Laney because he spent the most time with her. Once he had his solo date, things were sure to change. At least he hoped they did. Laney glanced up from her Bible as her bungalow door swung open and Marianne blew in, shutting the door behind her. You are never going to believe what happened. She plopped down next to Laney on the couch and folded one leg underneath her. I can't believe you weren't there, but I'll try to do it justice. Oh man, they are going to be so mad. Heads are probably spinning right now. Laney chuckled at the whirlwind that was her friend and closed her Bible. She wouldn't be able to focus now. Okay, it sounds intriguing, but you're going to have to slow down and start at the beginning because I am so lost right now. It's Tyler. He's like no cowboy we've ever had. Laney wanted to ask how he was different, but Marianne had already moved on. So they went paintballing, right? But Bristol threw a fit over having to wear the protective gear, said it wasn't flattering and would ruin her hair. And he sent her home? Laney offered. Marianne threw her hands up in the air. He sent her home! The men don't usually send women home on the dates. They wait for the ceremony so we can have a ceremony. If he keeps this up, we may not have enough women to do a ceremony. I'm sure Peter and Justin are freaking out right now about what to do about him. Well, he obviously knows what he wants, or what he doesn't want anyway. Laney's admiration for Tyler grew even more. He didn't seem to want to play their game, and that made him different and appealing. But she couldn't act on those feelings. Wouldn't act on those feelings. He might seem different now, but deep down, he was probably like all the other men Laney had known in her life. The kind who said they wanted one thing, but really wanted another.